Good morning. I first wanted to make a note of the new Attorney General logo here for celebrating the 250th anniversary of our great country, and the flag behind Davy there. That's part of our messaging this year, and I love it so much and so appreciative of my staff who volunteered to do it that you'll probably see it for the next 5 years. Todd Rokita, Attorney General. I want to cover a few things this morning, along with some relevant senior staff that are doing a great job behind me. And then I'm happy to take your questions on anything you'd like to discuss. First of all, as you all know, we're in a gas tax emergency, and as declared by Governor Braun, as extended by Governor Braun, it continues to go on. So that emergency in his order invokes under state law several duties, new duties, well, not new, but temporary duties that our office has. So I want to go through that first. We quickly launched right after we were given notice of the emergency being declared. We quickly launched an informational dashboard called infuelwatch.com, and it's currently tracking more than 4,600 gas stations across the state. We initially built this as an internal technology tool for us, but it was going so well that we turned it forward-facing so that consumers can see it directly and help them with any complaints that they think that need to be filed. So far, our office has received more than 170 complaints about potential price gouging at gas stations, and we're looking at each one of them. They have died down as of the last week. Those complaints, combined with our own monitoring, have led us to opening formal investigations into 30 major retailers and asking additional wholesalers questions. We are also reaching out to an additional 100 retailers short of an investigation. So 30 investigations, 100 additional inquiries we're making to retailers, asking them questions about their pricing. So we didn't have evidence to start an investigation outright, but we certainly want to ask them some questions about why this fluctuation. So that's what's going on with that. And we have David Neal, my deputy here, and who was with me at the Secretary of State's office a while ago, as well as a staffer there to help with further questions you may have on that. Just a few days ago, we secured a major victory for parents' rights and won another significant case against the ACLU with the help of our Solicitor General and his team, James Barta. After multiple courts ruled in our favor, they dismissed their lawsuit against our Indiana's common sense legislation banning public school teachers and vendors from providing instruction on human sexuality to pre-K through third graders. So we look forward to continuing defending that law against any future attacks, but also now turning our attention to what we can do to build on this law. So it was kind of, in my opinion, ridiculous that we had to have a state law putting a prohibition on teachers from teaching human sexuality to kindergarten through third graders. But what's the enforcement mechanism beyond our defending the constitutionality in the courts? Well, it falls to the Department of Education and teachers licensing. And I just looked before coming out here, and I think it was 14 or so teachers' licenses have been revoked in the state of Indiana this calendar year. For what? For conviction of a crime. So that's the standard we're on over here at the Department of Education, that you lose your licenses after you're convicted of a crime. So I don't have, point being, I don't have much confidence in this statute that the Department of Education is going to enforce this human sexuality teaching prohibition here in the state of Indiana. But I await to be pleasantly surprised, or otherwise we got to put better enforcement teeth in this and frankly other laws. We successfully defended our landmark pro-life law and defeated Planned Parenthood. Again, James Barta and his team. This particular Supreme Court decision reaffirmed the constitutionality and ensured our strong protections for life remain enforceable. There's more to do. We have a RFRA case coming up in September. It's the last challenge on our pro-life law. So far on that case, on the Riffer case, we've prevailed at every turn. And then we're fighting the abortion pill case. We filed and that's a national issue. We filed an amicus brief supporting Louisiana in that. Mailing dangerous abortion drugs subverts Indiana's law in that regard, and it bypasses, even more importantly, it bypasses its critical medical safeguards and causes real harm. Next one, excuse me. Election integrity. Thanks to our successful appeal in the Seventh Circuit, our voter ID law is back in full effect. Again, James Barta, our Solicitor General, and his team are responsible for the successes there. Only secure government-issued IDs like Indiana's driver's licenses are accepted at the polls. This law is a targeted update that strengthens what is already a proven system, a system that, frankly, I built and along with the legislators at the time when I was Secretary of State. As we've seen in recent primary elections, the system has worked smoothly. It's always worked smoothly here in the state of Indiana. And so the fear mongering out of Democrats and leftists who want to continue to say that a group of people are not sophisticated enough or not smart enough to obtain or use an acceptable photo ID is really just nonsense and just what I said, a lot of fear mongering. So I hope it stops. Last month, we also delivered a major victory for Hoosier consumers in the fight against corporate monopolies. And I'm joined here by Corinne Gilchrist, a rising star in our office with a lot of experience in antitrust. Her work was in New York over the last several weeks. It was a 6-week antitrust trial in New York City where a jury, with her help, returned a verdict in favor of our office and allied with certain states on all counts, declaring Live Nation, the nation's largest ticket seller, Live Nation Entertainment Incorporated, to be a monopolist in its concert and ticketing dealings. Corinne was actually on the ground in New York making arguments before the court on behalf of Hoosiers and all people impacted in this case. This verdict sends a clear message that no company is too big, and believe me, they're big. Live Nation is huge, but they're not too big to play by the rules. And Corinne Gilchrist, where'd she go? As little as she is, she took them on successfully, the big Live Nation. So now, Live Nation must provide meaningful relief to fans, artists, venues who have paid the price for its anti-competitive practices. We will now proceed. The trial's not over. That was a liability trial. We'll now proceed to a separate trial on the remedies, where Live Nation and Ticketmaster will be required to remediate their anti-competitive conduct. Finally, on the fiscal side, our unclaimed property division has already returned more than $56 million to rightful owners. This year, it is on pace to surpass last year's record of $88 million, and I expect them to do that. Nearly $1 billion in unclaimed funds still are waiting to be returned to Hoosiers, and our team is working hard to get the money back where it belongs. Every one of you should go to indianaunclaimed.gov to see if you have any money. So with that, we're all happy to take your questions.
So in your calling for Secretary of State Diego Morales to drop his campaign, you mentioned self-inflicted wounds. Why is this happening now? Is there some sort of last straw that happened?
There comes a time, and you're talking to a guy who's had a Hoosier First agenda ever since I was Secretary of State, and we continue on successfully with that agenda now as Attorney General. And I like Diego. I consider Diego a good friend. I think he's been a good Secretary of State if you look at the actions in his office, and we've done a lot of things together. But yeah, there comes a time when wounds self-inflicted, and let me tell you, you guys have picked on him for sure. I mean, if he was a Democrat, first a Democratic Hispanic Secretary of State, you'd give him a pass on all kinds of things. Having said that, a lot of this is self-inflicted. And hey, this is not perfect science. This is not a perfect art, holding public office. I make mistakes every week. We say hundreds of thousands of words. every week, but I don't think you guys have seen a pattern in other office holders. And if there is a mistake, it gets cleaned up. It gets corrected, and you have the trust and confidence of Hoosiers. And I've enjoyed that trust and confidence of Hoosiers. I've earned it. Highest vote total in Indiana history. And I don't take any of that for granted. I work on it every day, and I don't see that happening in Diego's case now. And I feel take it upon myself to take responsibility for that and suggest to Republican delegates some other alternatives.
So Attorney General, if you think he's done a good job, as you said, why ask him to drop out and what did you say?
Because of the self-inflicted wounds that he's done. If you look at his record, he's helped me, as I see it, as one of my clients. He's helped me go after non-citizen voting, which is a crime in this state. And there's going to be more tuned in on that. So the stuff I work with him on, he's done a good job. And I can say that as a former Secretary of State. But he's also had self-inflicted wounds that bring into question his ability to be elected this fall. And I am not one that's going to let, there's such a contrast between the parties right now. It's pretty easy. There's one that's for America. That's one that hates America. There's one that puts Hoosiers first. There's one that puts illegal aliens first. I don't want the party that puts illegal aliens first and everything non-Hoosier first inside the State House. And so I made the statement at this time. I otherwise think is pretty self-explanatory.
On the price gouging, when you're doing these investigations, what is the difference between a higher price than someone expected and actual gouging?
What is the difference between fluctuation?
How are you making that determination? Yeah.
Well, it's pretty complex. And under the statute, there's a demarcation, and that demarcation is 7 days. What the price was 7 days before the emergency was declared, and how much it goes up and down in relation to wholesale fuel prices, to costs and all that. And that's where I have to start asking questions. When that infuelwatch.com shows something way out of kilter, that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of it. That causes me to ask further questions, causes Davey to ask further questions into, okay, when did you buy the fuel load that caused that price to bump up? And that's what we're doing. We're going and we're giving them subpoenas, basically. That's called civil investigative demands, and we're asking them these questions. We've got some that were undeliverable. I sent my investigators to the station and hand delivered them. And they have what, Davey, 30 days? 15. We set it at 15 days to get responses. We've gotten some responses back already, not only from retailers but also wholesalers. And then we're going to evaluate those responses. I mean, this is not going to be a quick fix. Luckily, we have under the Deceptive Consumer Sales Practices Act, we have 5 years. So the emergency, the crisis is quick, and we're reacting to it. But the cleanup at the end of this might take a little bit longer. And I'll let Davey and Corinne see if they want to add anything to it.
Well, and a follow-up on that would be one of the things we've heard complaints about is that a station will put one price up, but that's if you're paying cash or you're a member, things like that. Would that count where there's a 10 or 20 cents difference on a gallon?
Well, for the energy emergency, we're looking at the prices that were paid, for fuel for the 7 days prior to the emergency, and then a period of time during the energy emergency. We're allowing businesses to make business decisions like giving cash discounts or cost increases for credit card swipe fees and things like that. What we're looking at is where the margins between the retail price and the wholesale price are wildly out of control or an outlier based on a particular region in Indiana.
What are the consequences, like if you find that they have proven they have price gouged?
There's a per violation fee, a fine, and then disgorgement of any price gouging that's taken place.
On the Roblox Discord lawsuit, one of the things we've heard from certain speech advocates is when you look at the allegations in this lawsuit about parental controls and what the state wants to see, or even the age verification law for the websites already in Indiana, it's just how much information should Hoosiers feel comfortable handing over to these websites just to be able to access whether it's a gaming app or anything else?
I don't think they're giving up too much privacy to make sure that our kids are safe. And look, I'm a parent. Kathy and I have 2 boys. It's hard to raise kids, right? Especially these days with the influences that get into your house. And we're attentive parents, and it's hard. I am not saying that companies need to supplant, surpass, or be the substitute for good parenting, right? Parents' responsibilities still exist. But we can all help parents here. And we can all help parents keep kids safe. And I think the law that we're defending has the right balance right now. Maybe we could think about what else to do to tweak it a little bit further, frankly. But especially when these companies make billions and billions of dollars off our most precious gift from God, our kids, we can expect our companies to do at least what's technologically available to keep our kids safe. And thanks for bringing up Roblox and Discord. I forgot to bring that up in my remarks, but Corinne is on that case too, and I'll let her add to your question.
Thank you. Yeah, our focus in the Roblox and Discord complaint is on the design features and the choices that they make about how they prioritize profits over safety. And so what we're seeking is a change to those practices and ensuring that parents have accurate information about what their kids are going to encounter on those platforms, and that if you're going to design a platform for kids, that appropriate protections are in place.
If that lawsuit is successful, I mean, won't predators, they could just move to another app, right? You just go after each app as it comes up, you can't prevent them all or.
Well, I think it's important to, that's why I think the legislature was right to take, the approach that they did in making sure that there are apps that can be held accountable for how they proceed, and, making sure that parents are aware of the features that are out there. And that's certainly something that, there may be more to come from us on that, because we don't want them to be switching to something else. And that's part of why Roblox and Discord are jointly in this lawsuit, because it does go from one to the other. And that's an important connection that we need to take action on.
The FSSA recently has launched these audits into high-risk providers providing Medicaid services. As they've come through with these audit findings, is your office taking any action on that?
We call it the MAFUCU, the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. They're having conversations with FSSA on that right now. My understanding is that our staffs have a good working relationship. I want to go back a little bit of history here for everybody, because I just learned it myself. So what my office does under the statute, it's a federal program, Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. We focus mostly on the providers. So think about the doctor who's billing 3 times for a service he performs once or never performs. Or think about the nurse who might be doing a pill diversion, putting the pill in her pocket instead of delivering it to the patient. That's what we've been focusing on for years. And as some of you have been at the last press conference know, we've just got a record number of fines issued and money collected back, over $100 million in that regard. So when Minnesota hit, and all the fraud going on up there, and California that tipped all this off, I looked into the law and saw that it was not the Attorney General that had responsibility for what we call recipient fraud, eligibility fraud. It was FSSA, what you're talking about, the kind of fraud you're talking about. And I didn't understand why divide it out like that. And what I could tell in going back through the legal history of the acts is that it was the recipient fraud portion was taken away from this office three or so attorneys general ago and put in FSSA. And then if you look at FSA's record since then, over the last 10, 15 years or longer, WIBC, still there? Yes. Okay, thank you. You're not seeing a lot. You're not seeing a lot of prosecutions on recipient fraud, especially compared to the numbers we're producing out of MAFUCU over the same time period. So I think the General Assembly needs to look at that. I think they should put recipient fraud where the expertise is, and that's in my office. Emma?
Back to Secretary Morales, you asked him to suspend. What did he say?
He's thinking about it. He's praying about it. That's what he told me as yesterday when we talked, and this morning when we texted.
Do you have any concerns? There are several recounts going on in northern Indiana, and some people in northern Indiana I talked to are concerned about him overseeing a commission that would be interviewing potential people that have cast absentee ballots, especially when he's pledged allegiance to, one candidate who's not winning. Do you have any concerns about the perception that may create?
That's a good question. That happened to me a few times when I was Secretary of State, and as long as you're cognizant of the perception, he should put out a statement ahead of time. It's a public hearing. All that will be public. He'll be a voting member of the recount commission. I don't at all believe he should recuse himself. The fact of the matter is, it's an elected office. He's the chief election officer. This stuff happens. You can walk and chew gum. You can do both jobs, as long as you have the trust of the people. And we made sure we had the trust of the people when I was doing the job. And so even though I would endorse candidates, I can't think of an example now, but I know one exists where that candidate came before my recount commission. It was just straight up. It was a straight up referee job. That's what the recount commission does. And again, the fact that it's in the public eye, the fact that the State Board of Accounts is involved and state police are involved. I mean, even if a recount commission member, whoever it is, wanted to do something, I mean, the likelihood that would happen is nearly impossible.
So it's not true that he could potentially cast a deciding vote on a candidate that he has sided with?
Oh, yeah, that's possible. It's very possible.
So that's not a conflict of interest?
No, it's not, because it's a 3-member commission. It's not one person making the decision, first of all. So there's going to, and every, if I remember right, every contested vote comes before that commission. There's discussion, there's debate. You'll be there. If there's a conflict of interest, you'll see it. And again, that goes to the trust of the public. I wouldn't dare, sit in front of all you, if and just because I endorse someone, put my thumb on the scale in a recount commission hearing for that. You can't get away with it. Would you guys help me then if there's more, and I'm happy to take another question, but if not, we got the Indy 500 coming up, of course, this weekend. Number one, pray for no rain during the race, right? That'd be my first request. But also it's a time where someone may be the victim of sex trafficking. It's a big issue. If any of you traveled in airports recently, you see signs now kind of everywhere about it. We're trying to raise awareness. That's no different here. There are signs. I would appreciate you all helping us get the word out. I don't think it casts a negative light on Indiana or Indianapolis or the IMS at all to be aware of this. I think it's a good thing. If they're living with their employer, if they have employer-provided housing, that's a problem. Could be a problem. Call 911. Don't think you're overreacting. If someone says, or you find someone staying in an overcrowded or substandard conditions, if they're prevented by the person they're with from speaking, interacting freely, if the person, aside from the obvious, like a child who's with a parent, has to go to the other person, if the person has to go to the other person to get money, to get ID, to get anything like that, if they're giving scripted or rehearsed or inconsistent answers, if, like I said, if they're having their IDs held by someone else, any signs of physical abuse, any signs of marks on them, or just appearing fearful or submissive or overly compliant. And if you find anyone, and this goes with either with sex trafficking or just labor trafficking, over long hours for very little or no pay. These big events, these super events like the Indianapolis 500 is ripe for, is where people are coming from all over the world, just like the soccer events in other cities this summer. It'd be ripe for this kind of stuff. We could really help a young girl, young person, or even an exploited worker stop the suffering that they're going through and do our job as one of God's children. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah.